and we think we have a verdict here. I'm sorry, what?
Guilty. First 2 counts.
Okay, and we've just learned that David Bizard has been found guilty on the first 2 counts, and that is driving with a blood alcohol of 0.15 or greater, causing death. On the second count is driving with a blood alcohol of at least 0.8, causing death of Eric Wells. And so these are very significant charges, and evidently the jury has given a lot of credence to the blood alcohol results, the efficacy of its testing procedures. And so this is a very big setback for David Bizard, and these are only the first two of the alcohol-related charges, and more than likely, if they believe the first 2, then they will believe the second 4 alcohol-related charges. So again, David Bizard found guilty of the 2 most serious charges of driving drunk causing death of Eric Wells, and we expect to hear more, Mark, soon.
All right. It is 2 o'clock right now, and if you're just joining us for this breaking news, we want to reset the scene for you. We had just learned that the jury in the David Bizard case had announced they had a verdict, and we've just learned the beginning of that verdict. You just heard Jack Reinhart report from Fort Wayne that the jury has found David Bizard guilty on the first counts, and now we're learning that the verdict is adjusted. The jury has found him guilty on all charges. Guilty on all charges. DUI causing death in the case of Eric Wells, found guilty. A reckless homicide in the case of Eric Wells, again guilty. The DUI charges, DUI causing serious bodily injury to Mary Mills and Kurt Weekly, and criminal recklessness causing serious injury to Mary Mills and Kurt Weekly. And we want to join again with Jack Reinhart in Fort Wayne and Allen County there, who has covered this case, this trial since the very beginning. Jack was just reporting that David Bizard was found guilty on the first 2 counts. Moments later, we learned the jury returned a verdict of guilty on all counts. The reaction you're hearing right now, Jack?
Well, Mark, David Bizard has been very stoic. He has shown little, if any, emotion either to and from the courtroom. You know, as he's been transported from the Allen County Jail, he has sat expressionless throughout this trial. We've been told that when the verdict was read, the courtroom was totally silent. David Bizard, after hearing all of the verdicts, dropped his head. That was the only show of emotion in this case. What solidified their belief in David Bizard was drunk on August 6, 2010.
Jack, we're going to stop you here. We're hearing from Terry Curry. He's the Marion County prosecutor. Let's listen into what Terry Curry has to say.
Sir, your reaction?
Are you ready? Yeah, obviously we're very pleased with the verdict, but I think it's important to first note that there's no reason to celebrate today. The events of August 6, 2010 were without question a tragedy for every single person involved. First and foremost, it was an unimaginable tragedy for the family of Eric Wells, his wife Louisa, his parents Aaron and Mary. Likewise, it was a tragedy for Mary Mills and Kurt Weekly, whose lives have been forever altered by the injuries they sustained on that day. But I think we also need to recognize and acknowledge it's a tragedy for the family of Officer Bizard himself, and our police department. We take no pleasure in prosecuting a police officer, and it should never ever be suggested that Officer Bizard is an evil person in any way. But all of us, whether a police officer, an attorney, a teacher, or otherwise, must accept responsibility for their actions. And the message of the verdict is clearly that Officer Bizard will accept responsibility and be accountable for his actions on that day.
Prosecutor Terry Curry had to say that the police department has a lot of rebuilding of its image to do, and you know, a lot of discredit
hearing from the family of the victims right now.
They did a wonderful job, and we wasn't expecting the verdict that we got, but we're very pleased with it. And each one of the jurors, I know this was hard on them, and we appreciate it very much.
Mary, why weren't you expecting this verdict?
You know, there was a lot. There was a lot of evidence, a lot of. I'm going to be nice. A lot of stuff that was said on the other side that wasn't always true. So, you know, we just prayed for the best.
Maybe because this, these last 3 years have been full of so many different surprises.
Outside the Allen County Courthouse now, you see RTV6 reporter Jack Reinhardt with the mother of Eric Wells. He has a live interview with Mary Wells right now. Jack?
Okay, Mark, we are here, as you said, with the mother of Eric Wells, Mary Mills, and Eric's brother, Ryan, and you've just come from the courthouse. I know that you still have tears in your eyes. Have you been able to process the decision yet?
Not fully. I mean, it's so, oh God, it's relief, and it's shock, and it's all just kind of processing right now. I've had several, sleepless nights in the past 4 weeks, and so maybe I'll be able to lay my head down tonight and sleep.
Okay. Brian, we've not really heard from you at all throughout this past 3 years, and you've just recently been here into the courtroom to catch the end of the trial. What has this whole process been like for you?
I mean, with the rest of my family, it's been a roller coaster, and look at the media and see what was going on in the courtroom. It was one thing after the next, and to sit here these last couple days and listen to the defense do everything they could to possibly confuse that jury into something as like bringing a bag of donuts in for their closing argument. And I really think that they actually said it best when they said garbage in, garbage out. And garbage came into Allen County, and it's leaving Allen County in handcuffs, as it should.
In fact, we're hearing from Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard now that the verdict has been read. He sent a statement to the RTV6 newsroom. It reads, quote, "Today's verdict undoubtedly provides a sense of justice and closure to this sad ordeal. I pray the many people whose lives were impacted by this episode find peace moving forward, and our city and its police department never forget the lessons to be gleaned from it." That statement from Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard now that the verdict has been read and David Bessard has been found guilty on all counts. Let's check in now with RTV6 reporter Chance Walser, who's live outside of the City County building. Chance.
Mark, I'm here with Public Safety Director Troy Riggs. Just curious, I know you said your thoughts first and foremost are with families on both sides of this thing.
Absolutely. This is a tragedy. Someone lost their lives. There are people that are dealing with emotional scars and physical scars that'll go long past today's verdict. So we want to remember them and respect them and their grief and suffering.
How do you feel like this has impacted the perception on the Metro Police Department over the last 3 years?
Well, there's no doubt that it's been a negative perception. I've been here a year. The first meeting I had with officers, on the first day I arrived, they were talking about this case, talking about how they thought it had tarnished their badge, and they were not happy about that. I think this ends some closure. It can, quite frankly, maybe give some healing for our officers, but also to the citizens that we serve.
Is this verdict what you expected?
It is what I expected. We've been moving forward, looking at all the things surrounding this case to make sure that we do our due diligence in the future to try to keep this from occurring again.
Thank you, Julie. We want to take this moment right now to remind you who the victims are in this story. You're looking at Eric Wells, a photo of Eric Wells, who was killed on August 6, 2010, when Officer Bessard's patrol car slammed into a group of motorcyclists. Now, Mary Mills, she was critically hurt, along with Kurt Weekly, also critically hurt during that crash. Mary Mills told us earlier that she feels she's been forced to retire and not in the way that she wanted to retire, but she says she is feeling ecstatic for the guilty verdict for all counts against David Bessard. In the last few minutes, we received a statement from Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department Chief Rick Height, who is telling us, quote, "It has been a long and difficult 3 years for the victims in this case and for our city. We hope that today's verdict provides some level of closure for those that have been affected. IMPD learned many lessons through this incident, and as a result, we have made policy changes commensurate with the new direction of the department. Because of these changes, we are a better police department. We want to thank the community and the hardworking members of the IMPD for their patience. We will continue to move forward, to pray for those victimized in this incident, and hope they find a measure of peace in the future. Again, that statement from IMPD Chief Rick Hite. New video just into our newsroom. Take a look at your screen here. This is David Bizard, just convicted, walking out of the Allen County Courthouse. He's there in the orange striped jumper there. David Bizard, again, found guilty on all counts.
Family, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're sorry? Okay. Not true.
David Bizard, you heard him there saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. A very quick walk from the courthouse to that van. Now he will await his sentencing on November 26th.
Jack Reinhardt and Derek Thomas in Fort Wayne.
Plus reaction from Indianapolis city leaders and our Call 6 investigators digging into this crash. We start live with Jack Reinhardt, who has covered this trial and this crash since day one. Jack.
Todd, it all got down to the blood evidence in the case, whether the jury bought into the integrity of the test and the accuracy of the result. The jury bought in.
To the victim's family, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
For the first time since 11:21 a.m. August 6, 2010, David Bizard spoke publicly about the drunk driving accident that killed one and injured two others. Bizard had been found guilty of all 9 charges, 6 of them alcohol-related. This despite the fact that 39 witnesses testified they didn't smell alcohol on David Bizard at the crash site, nor did he seem impaired. The jury put its faith in science and not speculation.
They presented a lot of possiblies to the jury or just speculation from defense experts that really had no basis, and I'm really gratified the jury saw through that.
Bizard was also found guilty of reckless homicide in the death of Eric Wells. The jury found him guilty of criminal recklessness for the life-changing injuries to Kurt Weekly and Mary Mills. To borrow a line from the defense, prosecutor Terry Curry said the case ended with no winners.
I think we also need to recognize and acknowledge it's a tragedy for the family of Officer Bizard himself, and our police department.
The defense team spent nearly $500,000 on Bizard's defense, and more than half that money came from the FOP. John Kautzman.
Obviously, we're very, very disappointed with the jury verdict in this case. Our client is devastated, as you can imagine, as his family is as well.
Bizard will remain here in the Allen County Jail until his sentencing 3 weeks from today. After that, he'll get a ride back to Marion County, where he'll stand trial for his second drunk driving case after his arrest in Lawrence in April. Live at the Allen County Courthouse, Jack Reinhardt, RTV6.
Hearing the jury say guilty has been a 3-year wait for the families of the victims in that crash, and it's almost certainly a day they often thought would never happen. RTV6 reporter Derek Thomas continues our live team coverage in Fort Wayne. And Derek, you talked to the victims and the families this afternoon.
Erica, Mary Wells wept as the verdict was read. These were tears of relief. Now this cloud, this dark, ugly cloud, can move away. These are the faces of the victims. Eric Wells, Mary Mills, Kurt Weekly. They are forever connected. Wells was killed in the crash. His parents have been waiting 3 years for justice.
Our son is gone forever, but David Bizard, we can only hope will receive the help that he needs, that he never again hurts or takes another innocent life.
We can move on to the next chapter and have Eric in our hearts and be able to start the next step in our lives without Eric, but always have his memory.
Kurt Weekly was not at the courthouse, but Mary Mills, who is now his wife, called him on her cell phone to break the news to him. She made it unanimous what all the victims sought.
All we asked for was justice, and I feel as though today we finally got it. With everything that has happened, it still came through as a guilty verdict for all 9, and that's what I was looking for and hoping for.
Now, Mary Mills suffered 2 fractures to her skull, and she sustained many, many injuries and spent 2 months in the hospital. She just got word that she's going to receive retirement for disability retirement. She said that was not the retirement she was hoping for. Live in Fort Wayne, Derek Thomas, RTV6.
More reaction coming in now from Mayor Greg Ballard, who says he hopes the city and police department never forget the lessons from this case. He also says today's verdict undoubtedly provides a sense of justice and closure to this sad ordeal. I pray the many people whose lives were impacted by this episode find peace moving forward.
We continue our live team coverage now with more reaction on the verdict. RTV6's Chance Walser joins us live. And Chance, you had the opportunity to talk to the public safety director shortly after the jury reached their decision.
Todd, he said he fully expected this guilty verdict, and he gives credit to the prosecution. He also talked to me about how people have come to perceive the police department and the damage this case has done to IMPD's image. He wants to stress that, according to him, the police department is not represented by those who stray from what is right, but rather by the 1,500 or so men and women who work hard to uphold the law every day. Director Riggs also brought up the families on both sides of this ordeal, saying he hopes the verdict will bring a sense of closure.
Obviously, you can't replace the loss of a human life, but there are some injuries and people that are struggling every day because of this. And so our thoughts and prayers remain with them. I will say that because of this verdict, I think that maybe the healing can begin not only in the city, but within IMPD.
We also spoke with Metro Police Chief Rick Hite. Coming up at 6, we will have his reaction and how he says the department has improved since this case began 3 years ago. Live downtown, Chance Walser, RTV6.
All right, Chance, we'll look for that. All new at 5, reaction from the Fraternal Order of Police. This is another step in a tragic event that has affected many lives and our city. We ask for our community's continued support of our police officers while they continue to diligently serve our city and keep us safe. The group also offered its prayers and sympathies to the victims and to the family of David Bussard.
The case of David Bussard has captivated and often infuriated the people of Central Indiana since the moment it happened in August of 2010. Call 6 investigator Rafael Sanchez is live in the newsroom with that part of the story. Rafael?
Erica, good evening. This jury verdict may find itself before the Court of Appeals or the state Supreme Court in the months and years to come, so it may not be over, though the past 3 years and 3 months have been long for all involved.
I'm sorry.
That was David Bussard saying he was sorry minutes after hearing the 9 guilty verdicts against him in Fort Wayne. This was the scene back on August 6, 2010, the accident that killed Eric Wells and injured Mary Mills and Kurt Weekly. 2 weeks later, then prosecutor Carl Brizzi said there were procedural errors in how Bussard's blood was drawn, and the samples would not stand up in court. A couple of days later, 3 top-ranking IMPD officers were demoted. And here's what then Chief Paul Sosalski had to say.
Senior leadership failed to recognize the gravity of the situation and failed to make sure the scene was preserved, processed, and supervised with the seriousness that every crime scene deserves.
In 2011, newly elected Marion County Prosecutor Terry Curry refiled DUI charges against Bussard. There were several legal fights over his blood samples, which in the end the prosecution won. In 2012, revelations of the mishandling of another blood vial led to the firing of Paul Sosalski and to the appointment of current Chief Rick Hite. This past April, 7 months before the start of Bussard's trial, he created more troubles for his lawyers. He was arrested in Lawrence after crashing his vehicle into a guardrail. Lawrence police found an open bottle of vodka in the car. Fast forward to October. The trial created some anxiety involving jurors. 3 were dismissed before the remaining 12 were asked to pass judgment. And of course, that trial was moved to Fort Wayne due to all the pre-trial publicity. Now the prosecutor handling that case, Denise Robinson, well, she'll move on. She's in charge of what could be 3 new trials, possible trials, in the South Side explosion. Live in the newsroom, Rafael Sanchez, RTV6.
Chris, thank you. More now on the guilty verdict involving suspended Metro Police Officer David Bussard. RTV6 reporter Chance Walser joins us live now outside the City-County building with more on how IMPD's police chief is reacting. Chance.
Todd, similar to the public safety director, he is not surprised by the guilty verdict and he is satisfied with the decision. He hopes closure can now come and the department and people of this city can move forward. He also spoke with me about the policies and practices of IMPD, saying they are light years ahead of where they were 3 years ago in terms of rules and accountability for those rules.
I like to think we've turned a corner and bettered the department with new policies. We have one of the toughest alcohol policies in the country. But I think that the men and women are continuing to work hard. In spite of all that you've heard about this case, they've never taken a day off.
And both he and Public Safety Director Troy Riggs stressed to me over and over again, they want the public to know now that officers causing problems are few and far between, and the vast majority of people who come to work every day and put on that uniform take pride in their job and are respectful of the badge that they wear. Those words are their words, rather. Live downtown, Chance Walser, RTV6.